here on YouTube. So, if you want to go back and watch that, you can go to my YouTube channel. It'll be there for either you guys here. If you want to have access to the recording of this program, make sure you reach out to Talia specifically, and anybody that's either in my mentorship program or Talia's coaching will have access to the full recording, even the after more intense part of the mastermind session. But I wanted to start the year off with because we've talked about this many times. How will I start? How will I start? How will I start in real estate? And whether you're in your early 20s, in your later 20s, and your early 30s, 35 plus, and even like me turning 45 this year, at some point there was a start. Now, for me, and a lot of people in this room are either early 20s or late 20s. For me, I get to live the life that I live today because of the decisions and the action steps that I took when I was your age. When I was 21, 22, 23, I took massive action. I educated myself just the way you guys are doing right now. And the result was not immediate, right? The result came to me afterwards, where now I'm in my 40s. I have real estate all across Canada. I'm a speaker and trainer and expert in investing. People pay me for my time. People pay me for what I have, what my strategies are and how I did it. I get paid to tell my story. The life I live today is all a result of what I did in my 20s. If I would have started in my 30s, it would have maybe delayed it a little bit. If I would have started in my 40s, if I would have started 5 years ago, I would not be there yet. It would maybe be delayed into my 50s. So congratulations for taking this time, right? This is time is the most valuable thing that we have. And you guys are here in your 20s. Imagine you're here in your 20s learning about real estate and getting educated, taking the action steps that are required for you guys to be able to reap the rewards in your 30s and early 40s, right? Before COVID-19, as Talia knows, we take the whole family to Disney World, right? And a lot of people would love to do that, right? A lot of people would love to take their kids and their family to Disney World and travel and pay for everybody's experience. That's an amazing thing to do. Cannot be done if you're trying to build, right? And so I'm able to do that. I'm able to travel. I'm able to have the time freedom because of all the decisions that I made when I was your age. So the question is, how will I start? And the reason I bring that to this discussion, and especially in 2022, and we've talked about it on multiple different platforms, on all the different ways that you are going to start. The first thing, we need to analyze what our current situation is. Where are we in this journey? And a few meetings ago, we talked about the types of deals, the active deals, the passive deals, the portfolio deals, and kind of where you are in your journey. For example, someone like me, turning 45, I've had 20 plus years in the game. I'm more in a position where I want to be an investor, right? I do have many deals that I'm very active in, but I I'm starting to divest in some of the the deals that take a lot of our time, and I'm putting on in that capital into situations where now I can invest. And this is why I love investing in other people's deals, because number one, if they've been my student, I know that they know what they're doing, and so I prefer to invest in especially one of my students' deals, than trying to do everything myself, because you know what? I'm now in a position where I want to be more passive, and that is just where I am. So you're going to do deals with other people's money. So think about where you're at. Do you have capital? Are you employed? Have you have a long history in employment? Do you have the credit required? Right? Because you may need to work with other people's credit. Okay? And that's important. You know, like you might need to attract a qualifier, someone that that's going to help you qualify for these mortgages, depending on where you are. So remember, how will we start? It really depends on where you are. For example, if you have job history, you have the POD, proof of down payment, in the bank account, you have good credit, and maybe you would be in a position where you can actually qualify for these properties yourself. And then most importantly, OPT, right? OPT, people don't really talk about OPT very much, right? People don't talk about other people's time. And so where I am at in my real estate investing career, I'm looking to tap into other people's time, right? Because I have the capital, and I'm trying to make sure that my capital is working for me. And the objective and the goal should be for you guys to become a full-fledged investor where you're tapping into other people's time. In the meantime, you might have to work with other people's money, right? And we'll talk about what this means. And if you are getting started, and for whatever reason you have no credit, you have no capital, especially in your early 20s when you're getting started, you might need to tap into other people's credit, right? There could be a situation where you actually tap into all three: other people's time, other people's credit, and other people's money. Now, because you have taken the time and invested into yourself, you are developing your real estate IQ. And that intellectual currency is actually what you're bringing to the table. You have taken the time, you're getting mentoring, you're getting coaching. That is an investment in yourself, and it increases your value in the marketplace. So you now show up to the table with the knowledge, right? That's what the timepiece is about. So if you have the knowledge and you work with someone else's time, you can somehow get someone else's credit and someone else's money. It means that you have done all three. But you can never be at this level if you don't own the most important piece of the puzzle, which is the knowledge, the intellectual currency. So you have your regular currency, and then you have your intellectual currency. The more intellectual currency you have, basically what you know in real estate and everything, your experience, the more intellectual currency you have, the less actual currency you will need. And so some of these walkthroughs, going to see properties, talking with agents, visiting properties, inspections, this is all an investment in yourself in order to build up that intellectual currency. So let's talk about that in each part. So we have OPM, OPC, and OPT. Okay? So first, people rarely talk about OPP, okay? Other people's problems. So you want to avoid other people's problems like the plague. If you don't have that built-in experience, and if you don't have the intellectual currency, what will happen is you will buy someone else's problem. because you simply don't know. You don't have that experience, right? Also, people talk about OPM, but they rarely talk about OPM, LOPM, losing other people's money, okay? So before you're going to work with someone else's money, you better make sure that you have invested in yourself in getting the education that is required for you guys to make actual execution and decisions that are going to impact someone else's money, okay? And so a lot of people, they play with other people's money, and it ends up being a situation where they lose other people's money. So that's number one. OPP and LOPM is something that you need to think about. So OPM, what does this mean, right? What does OPM means? We hear it all the time, other people's money. How does it work? Well, first of all, you're buying a piece of property. You are going to go to the bank or a lender, right? Now, that bank or lender is going to require you to put down, and I want to make sure I can put this as a speaker view. That lender is going to want you to require for you to put, maybe 20 or 30% down, whatever the case might be. So, what you want to do actually is you can get a loan, right? You can get a loan from, either peer-to-peer or private loan from someone to help you put the down payment. Essentially, this is someone else's money. So you can borrow the money to do a down payment. And so in this case, it's 100% funded, and you've executed on a deal with other people's money. Another way could be a vendor take-back, okay? Vendor take-back, this is when the seller will assist you in giving you some sort of financing in order to help you execute on the deal. So basically, instead of the bank or a specific lender giving you a mortgage, you could get the mortgage. You could get the mortgage from the seller themselves, right? The person selling the property has an invested interest in selling that property, and if you have that intellectual currency, right? If you know how to talk about it, present it, and execute on a vendor take back, a VTB, then you could be in a situation where the seller gives you a mortgage. Now, what's the benefit to the seller? Well, he sells his property. There's also some capital gains advantages. I do have multiple videos of this on my YouTube channel. You can go check it out on how vendor take back works. But that could be another great strategy. You can mix the both. Let's say the seller is going to give you 80% of the financing, and you have to come to the table with 20%. Well, you could get a private loan, right? Private loan to execute, together. You can use multiple strategies together. So this is other people's money. You could work with other people's RSPs and tax-free savings accounts, pretty much registered funds. And if you want to learn about that, we also have videos here on my YouTube channel on how that works. But there's multiple different ways of working with other people's money. I often see like marketing, like buy a property with no money, or get into real estate with no money. I know what they're saying, and often it's misleading because there is no such a thing. There is no buying a property with no money. The money has to come from somewhere. And so when we talk about other people's money, we're specifically talking about the money coming from somewhere, right? So the majority of the money of the financing is going to come from a bank or an institution, and then the down payment and whatnot could come from another source. And that is that is how we talk about no money down or whatever. When people say no money down, they're really saying the money's going to come from somewhere. It just doesn't have to come from you. And especially at the beginning of your career, and if you don't have capital, if you're working, with small down payments or whatnot, you are going to need to be in a position where you increase your intellectual currency so you can attract money from other sources. So this is other people's money. Now, other people's credit. Well, if you're going to go to the bank, you're going to need to be qualified, right? And if you're going to the major banks, any major bank, if you go to a major bank and they say, well, where are you going to get your down payment? And you're going to say, well, I'm going to get it from my buddy next door. Well, they're not going to buy that, right? Because they say, well, you have no sweat in the game, right? So you might, at the very beginning, you might not be able to qualify for, an A lender. Okay, so let's talk about A lenders. So A, B, C, D, private lender, hard money lenders. Every time you have to go to the next step, this means it's going to cost you more in interest. And so, can the deal support this, right? Because you'll have to, you're giving up cash flow for getting into a deal, right? And you may have to do that at the very beginning. You may have to do that, to build up your net worth and your cash flow, and that may take you to obscure markets that you maybe didn't even think about before, right? You can't be very creative in a major market like downtown Toronto, downtown Vancouver, downtown Montreal, when the person can list the property and it doesn't even make any cash flow, and now you purchase that property, with a 10% interest rate. It's just not going to work, right? You're going to set yourself up for a lot of problems. Now, if it's a quick execution, for example, if it's a BRRRR, if you're doing something really quickly, you could get into a situation, as long as you know what you're doing so you don't hurt yourself, where you are paying some high interest up front with the idea that at some point you are going to refi it and get a regular financing at like 2 or 3%. But you really need to know what you're doing before we end up, like I told you before, LOPM, losing other people's money. And so this A, B, C type of lenders, you want to make sure that, okay, if you can't qualify you can't qualify on your own, you might have to go to like private sources, right? You might have to go to vendor take back. You might have to go to people's registered funds, work with someone, work with joint venture partners. But that is going to come at an expense, right? It's going to come at a higher interest rate, and it will eat up some of your cash flow. If you could tap into someone else's good credit, someone else's qualifying power, and together you do a joint venture, and then they get a benefit just because they have the net worth required, they have the credit score that is required, they have the income and job source that is required for them to get financing. So they've been diligent, and maybe they have more years in the game, than the average person. Then you could tap into someone else and bring a qualifier. Right? Bring someone to help you, assist you, and strengthen the deal, right? And you might have to give up some equity, right? You may have to say, hey, I'll give you 10, 15% of my deal just for you to come on board with me, because, they're going to have the good credit, they're going to have the job history, they're going to have the POD. I want you guys to write that down. Proof of down. It's not good enough that you're going to raise the capital, because A lenders are going to want to see the money in your account for at least 3 months. And so you're not going to go to your lender and they say, I'm getting money from my Uncle Billy Bob, my mom, my this, my that. And they're going to say, why aren't these people on the mortgage? And so you're going to have to find someone that has that POD. If you are looking to be qualified for an A lender, what's the benefit? The benefit is that 2.5, 3%. And so you're going to have to use a qualifying or have a qualifying power on the team. So you have the money partners, a money partner that's coming on the team, and you're gonna need someone. Now you can be the qualifier. If you have the POD, you got the job history and the credit, you could be that qualifier, and so that means you might just work with another money partner. Now here is where you're going to get the highest returns, because obviously the active partner is going to make the highest returns. Why is that? Well, basically they're investing their time, which is the most valuable asset, but they're not necessarily putting in any capital, right? But these are going to be the people that are going to manage the property. So you've heard it before. Working partners. You got working partners. They could be management partners. Some of the responsibilities are for you as investing your time, right? You're bringing that intellectual currency, okay? That knowledge. Your investment here with me, right? Watching these videos, whether you're reading and join groups, you invested in coaching and mentoring. All that is an investment into your intellectual currency, right? Who here would go to a doctor that hasn't invested in their education? Right? That doesn't have that degree, that the PhD, the MD degree on the wall. Who would go to a doctor like that, right? So if you see that degree on the wall, you know that, okay, there's a trust level there from your part that, okay, you know what, I'm going to listen to this person, I'm going to listen to what they're saying to me and their recommendations. Same thing. How are you going to be able to leverage your time if you haven't invested into yourself and getting that intellectual currency? Someone that is going to give you money, they're giving you money because you know something that they don't have time to pursue, right? They don't have time to sit here on a Saturday and learn about real estate. And so what is the result? The result that because you invested that time, the return for you is that you build up your intellectual currency. And the more you know, the more return, the more equity you can command on this side. And so, you can be a working partner, and that working partner, you find the deal, you do the due diligence, you underwrite the deal, everything that you need to do in order to understand whether the deal is a good deal or a bad deal. And so, at the very beginning, this is where you're going to be, that investment of time. But you could have the credit, so you could take more of that more equity. But at the end of the day, guys, you have to start. It doesn't matter if you're 13 years old, 16 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old, 35, 40, 45, 50. At some point, there's a start. And when you start, you need to evaluate, where am I? What is my time availability? How much qualifying power do I have? And how much capital do I actually have? Once you determine where you fit, are you going to be working with other people's money, other people's time, whatever it is that you want to do, you have to make that distinction and then get to work. Because at some point, there's going to be a harvest. And there can never be a harvest if you haven't sowed the seed. And sowing the seed is getting to work, understanding how this works. So 2022 is going to be a fire year. I'm going to stop this camera and I'm going to go to you guys for questions.